So, Petros, thank you so much for taking the time today for being a part of our Community of Practice channel here on YouTube. And on
Yeah.
behalf of SETSI, I want to thank you so much for your leadership today.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
Awesome. So, as always, we begin by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, if you can please do us the honors by introducing yourself to our listeners and viewers and tell us about your amazing work.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Petros Kusmu. I'm calling in from Vancouver, but I'm originally from Edmonton, Alberta. That's where I was born. Um, by day, I'm the founder and CEO of Alpine Vistas Capital, an investor-backed search fund where we're looking to make an acquisition of a mature, profitable company in Canada, the US, that I will then operate, run, grow it, and create opportunities for broad-based employee ownership.
Fantastic. We appreciate your service. So, what inspires you about the work that you do?
Um, what inspires me about the work that I do, I'd say a couple of things inspires me. First, a lot of what I do. How about this? I'll explain a little bit about what is it I actually do on a day-to-day basis, and then when we talk about the inspiration, it becomes a little bit clearer. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is I meet business owners or their advisors, and I try to just learn about different entrepreneurs' journey in building their business and understanding their industry and understanding how their business is well positioned or not, perhaps, and then evaluating and seeing if it's a good fit for someone like me to own and operate. So my day, on a good day, it's really just talking to owners and getting a sense, is this the business the right fit for me? I find it quite inspiring actually to be talking to entrepreneurs constantly. And these are entrepreneurs who, they're not like, sexy AI startups of any sort or climate tech. Like, for the most part, these are pretty humbling businesses, or, they'll often admit boring businesses, right? It's distributors for different kind of industrial equipment. It could be folks who service the fire alarms in an apartment building because someone has to do this sort of maintenance work. It could be a tech company that provides a pretty, not super sexy software, but that's pretty critical for their clients. And I just find that really inspiring. Actually, there's something inspiring in hearing the kind of journey that a lot of entrepreneurs go through to build their businesses, and it's often one that doesn't. That's not all just glitters and gold. It's a lot of hard-earned battle scars. It's a lot of ups and downs, but there's still an element of perseverance because I wouldn't be talking to them today if they didn't persevere. So that's I just find really inspiring. So I draw a lot of inspiration from these owners, and it reminds me of my father, who's a business owner himself and has been one for ages, but it hasn't always been easy, and it still isn't easy. And yeah, I just find that really inspiring. Folks uh, and it doesn't even have to be for profit. I find folks who kind of have the gumption and the courage to break it out on their own to start something new is just really inspiring. So I draw a lot of inspiration from that. What also gets me inspired about my work is I have a lot of student interns that I work with, and it's just I find that like a endless source of inspiration. Actually, just working with like the next gen, and I have to say that was a surprise. Like I kind of started off with these student interns as like, okay, they're gonna provide me a lot of leverage and it's gonna be great. They'll help me do whatever analysis and support I need to, cold outreach lots of business owners or to help me look at a deal. But the surprising twist is I've actually just get inspired and really energized by working with them. So that's been another kind of surprising source of inspiration. Working with my investors, they're really fantastic, and yeah, that's that kind of covers, I think, your answer for what kind of inspires me with my current work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is definitely inspiring, and so so humble because, like you said, it's not about the sexy tech, the IT, and this AI and all that. It's
No,
them still the mom and pop shops. It's the coming together and just doing, the basics. But those basics, you know what I mean, really help to make community what it is.
it's
So
the literal backbone of like the entire economy and country, right? Like someone
absolutely.
like janitorial services are extremely important, and someone has to do it.
Yes,
It employs a lot of people and provides great jobs. For instance, someone
that's
has to
right.
do the kind of maintenancing of our infrastructure. Like there's just a lot of yeah, it feels part of this job. It feels like you're I don't know if you ever watched that movie, The Matrix, right? Neo. There's a
Oh, for
point where he
sure.
like he starts
Hmm.
seeing the world in a different way, and that's kind of how I
That's
feel. Like
it.
you start to kind
Yep,
of appreciate all the little random things, and you start to not take things for granted, right? Like I'm
that's right.
looking at my office and I see like the curtain, and you think about the person who sells and manufactures that curtain and distributes it, and then sets up the contracts with these
That's it.
developers, and the person that has to maintenance it, and so you just
It's
realize how
fabulous.
much goes, how much work and kind of invisible collaboration that goes into building everything in our world. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so anyways, I'm getting a little
That's
bit deeper than I
amazing.
thought I would, but
Oh
yeah,
no, no, I love it, man. It's time that we go deeper into it because people appreciate it more. So very good.
yeah.
So what's now the flip side now, what challenges or barriers have you faced and how have you overcome them or in the process of overcoming?
Sure. I mean, so what's inspiring is learning a lot about different entrepreneurs' journeys and building their businesses and learning about an industry. And for someone like me who has like a boundless amount of curiosity, that's super great. Who likes learning about a lot of different things. The flip side is, I'm ultimately just trying to find that one beautiful business that I can then acquire and operate myself for years to come. And in doing that, you're often coming across a lot of businesses who you think, oh, geez, these aren't actually a good fit. But the hardest part is you do sometimes come across a great business, and it's just getting no's. Maybe you send a cold email and the person doesn't want to talk to you. It's a no. Don't email me. It's maybe you find that one beautiful business and you talk to the owner, but they have an asking price in mind that just far exceeds anything that you could raise capital for and invest in. So that's a no in its own way. So part of the challenging part of what I do is relentlessly, getting up after having a million doors shut in your face day after day after day, and still kind of approaching this work with the same amount of optimism and energy it requires. And you just have to get really comfortable with rejection and disappointment and but not letting that get to you, right? So that's what I've been finding is this work is a lot more of a mental game than anything else, right? It's just being comfortable with rejection, discomfort, uncertainty, and yeah, I mean, uh, uh, being uncomfortable with uncertainty and just grappling with that is a big challenge. And because I have a 2-year runway and budget for my investors to look for a business. And should that 2 years ends up and I don't find a business, like okay, I have to move on to the next thing, and that's an incredible amount of uncertainty. And also, uh, you know, should I find this incredible business, but it takes me across the country? What does that mean for my wife and my family? Like, okay, well, we just got to go. So, yeah, I'd say the hardest parts is relentless rejection and swimming in ambiguity constantly about what the future will look like, but just being comfortable and staying cool and level-headed all throughout.
That's it. Well, when you have the passion and the purpose, that you have, it's just gonna like, level out for you. That's life, up and down, tops and curves and bends, but ebbs and flows, as they like to say. But yeah,
Totally.
when you have that passion and that humility, it'll work out for sure.
Yeah, totally, totally, totally.
So is there anything that you want to amplify right now? Anything new you want to amplify?
Anything like that I'm like, is
Yeah,
this
that
kind
you're
of an
currently
opportunity for me
working
to
on.
go?
Yeah. Yeah, anything currently you're working on.
Oh, I mean, in terms of what I'm currently working on, I would say well, maybe I'll answer the question this way first. I'll kind of describe a little bit about what occupies my time, and then I'll kind of use this as a chance for a shameless plug and promotion for the work that I'm doing, right? So, uh, I was thinking about it earlier. There's a saying that, in terms of how one should think about their career, it's learning, it's earning, and then serving. And, I'm trying to do all three of those things at the same time instead. So, earning in terms of my living, it's through Alpine Vistas Capital, looking for that business to acquire, like I've kind of mentioned. Um, uh, Through serving, as I do a lot of community work. So one is I help lead a Black-led not-for-profit affordable housing provider here in Vancouver, where yeah, we're building affordable housing in one of the world's most unaffordable cities and providing a lot of wraparound services and supports for the broader Black community as well. So that's been super rewarding work of taking this kind of startup-y, not-for-profit, volunteer-run organization and helping build it into this incredibly professionally run organization that's making huge multi-million-dollar investments. And I also sit on the board of the Banff Forum. It's a national charity that convenes leaders to discuss issues of national importance from a public policy standpoint. So, try to do that serving stuff on the side of my desk whenever I can. And in terms of the learning, I'm, even though I've finished school and I have my master's degrees, I'm still learning a lot by authoring research where I did my business, where I did my MBA, which was at Harvard Business School. So currently after learning and co-authoring research on employee-owned companies and what are the kind of cultural requisites for a company to be fully employee-owned. How does one finance, structure a financial transaction to convert a company into being fully owned, fully employee owned? So this is a lot of stuff that, I'm, doing some active research on, co-publishing with my old professor, but I'm actively learning at the same time because I'm hoping to take some of these practices and learnings and actually use it for Alpine Vistas company and whatever company we acquire. So that's a lot of what I do on my day to day, so to speak. And in terms of the shameless plug, it's really, if anyone's listening to this and they know somebody, maybe it's a friend, an uncle, an old coworker, or their boss who may be open to selling a business, the shameless plug here is please connect me with them. You can go to alpinevistascapital.com. You'll find my contact email. You can just shoot me a note. And the reward here is for anyone that introduces us to our future acquisition. We have a finder's fee, and depending on the size of the deal, it could be an easy $100,000 to $250,000. You getting rewarded if you introduce us to the right company. A lot of the questions I get folks saying after is like, well, what kind of company and this and that industry. We got more on our website you can look at, but I'd say don't worry about that as much. It's more just if you know someone who has a pretty decent mature company, just please make the introduction and would love to reward you for that as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Let me ask you a side question. What about franchises? Is that something that you would consider?
Great question. Not typically, but
Okay.
it depends. Like if it's like an
Mhm.
incredibly if it kind of has all the right markers for what we're looking for, like, yeah, I have
Mhm.
investors who've backed franchise investments before in the past, and I know folks who've purchased franchises that have gone on to become incredibly lucrative and successful. So
Mhm.
I'd definitely be open to that for the right kind of deal.
Okay, great, great. So hang on after when we're done.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
let you know of one because I have one in mind.
Okay, good. Awesome.
All right. So tell me, how do you feel about the future of social impact in Canada?
Um, that's a good question. The future of social impact in Canada. So I'll start off with a disclaimer in that I don't I see my work could perhaps be indirectly classified as social impacting in a way, right? Where um uh you know the nature of us having a commitment to broad-based employee ownership, I think, could be classified as social impact. The not-for-profit work I do is socially impactful. So this is my way of saying, like, look, disclaimer, take what I say with a grain of salt. But in terms of what do I think about the future of social impact in Canada, you know, I think we're in this interesting cultural moment here in North America um, where a lot of the kind of progress we had from like a diversity, equity, and inclusion standpoint is being called into question, right? And folks are thinking twice about previously made commitments or the merits of DEI as a whole. And so I think there's DEI and social impact are very different. But social impact, which could include DEI, which could include environmental, social governance goals as well, ESG. I think there's a sense, right, and frustration that is popping up in certain circles that are just questioning the merits of all of that. So, um, you know, uh, I think when it comes to social impact work in Canada, it's not as threatened as as it is in the US, to be frank, right? Where a lot of maybe funding may be drying up for some of these organizations who play in this ESG, DEI space, or just broadly define social impact. Um, so I think for folks who operate in this space, there's a couple of things. First is really getting um, like being able to tell your story well such that the work is just impactful. There's this element of just maybe folks vectoring too much on the social, and as a result, maybe not feeling like the impact actually matters as much. But uh, you know, being impactful, I think telling that story matters a lot more. I'll give an example with the Hogan's Alley Society, right? Black led, affordable housing provider, in light of kind of the moment that we're in, I think the story we should be telling is we're part of the solution as the broader housing affordability crisis in Canada, right? Like that's the impact. And telling that story to kind of for it to resonate with a broader audience, I think is just going to become increasingly important. So, yeah, for those who operate in the social impact space in Canada, I think being able to tell the impact of your story and quantifying it and selling it to larger audiences, I think is just going to become even more important beyond just selling it to whatever other community and niche we primarily serve or are from. So that's just kind of my 2 cents there.
No, totally resonate with that 100%. There has been a lot of bureaucracy around this whole DEI and a lot of smokescreen that has been like revealed, and it just needs to be clarified, simplified, straight to the point, you know what I mean, of what is the outcome of this? What is the outcome of it? Who's benefiting really from
Totally.
it? Because statistics have come out that this a lot of the DEI is not, people of color or less,
Yeah.
that has been benefiting from it. Yeah.
And yeah, I think for like maybe some skeptics of just the social impact space as a whole too, I think I think there's a lot of fair and reasonable questions I get asked sometimes, right? Like I used to
Hmm.
work briefly in the kind of climate finance space, and I think there are a lot of really great actors who are very outcomes focused. And then I've
Right.
seen myself firsthand a lot of folks who are just really like minimal effort box ticking exercises about meeting certain ESG goals or whatever else it is. It's not actually meaningful, right?
Right.
And so I think for anyone who operates in this space, just really trying to separate yourself from the rest and demonstrating true impact and meaningfulness is kind of
Hmm.
paramount. So yeah, there's all these been talks of greenwashing, and I think the same can be said for DEI washing, whatever else it is. There's a lot of fluff, and
That's right.
it's natural. I think when certain movements and get popular, right? But
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
this moment, I think folks are going to demand greater kind of accountability, and that's probably
Accountability.
better
Oh
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Especially this new generation. They're taking no prisoners at this point. For sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me, like, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like to you?
Um, Look, my ultimate goal. Um, I'd say my ultimate goal is uh, I'll describe my ultimate goal by describing it as like a short, medium, and long term goal. It just as it relates to Alpine Vistas Capital, without giving me broader ambitions in life of whatever else it may be, being a better guitarist or a better golfer, etc. Uh, my ultimate goal with Alpine Business Capital in the short term is just, again, like I had said, find an incredible business to acquire at a fair price and and make that my kind of work for years to come, right? In terms of the midterm, it's to operate that company and really grow it massively, but grow it with integrity, having a great culture, um, with being able to kind of have a cultureship of ownership across the employee base, help make the employees actually partial owners themselves in that business. And in the long term, I'd love to not only feel like I'm actually in a position that I can afford housing in Vancouver, which is impossible, but the long term, feel like I've been able to generate wealth for not just myself, but for others and for the employees as a whole, for the folks who back me, and more importantly, start to just kind of normalize better ways of doing business and better ways of investing. I think what I love it is for the work that I'm doing to kind of just be seen as the norm, where anyone making investments kind of have an expectation that broad-based employee ownership is a thing. That this becomes almost a case study to help catalyze more folks to just normalize this sort of kind of behavior of making employees partial owners and just creating an overall mindset about the how paramount it is for employees to have an ownership culture and for them to actually be true owners in a way. So that's kind of the long term I'd love to see, is not only to generate wealth for myself, but for a broader community to do good work and to kind of help set a new standard.
Absolutely. That's the fair and just world that we should all want, you know.
Mhm.
That's it. So, wow, Petros, this has been very, very inspirational. I'm just loving this. I love the basics. I love, not forgetting the the ones that really hit their foot on the pavement and do the work, that really build community, build cities, build countries. It's beautiful to see, and I'm sure that people who are also in that industry will definitely appreciate you as well in your organization, and will reach out. So my last question for you is, any closing thoughts or calls to actions at this time?
Um, Yeah, good question. Any closing thoughts? No, not really. For folks who are interested in learning more, if there's any young people here, I take on interns every 4 months or so. So feel free to reach out and follow us in our socials to kind of stay posted. For anyone who might have a connection to an owner, again, please put me in touch with one. Love to potentially acquire that business and reward you with a finder's fee. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Really grateful for you and Victor inviting me to partake in this podcast and in this interview.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you and all that you do. We're wishing you much success. And I know, we'll definitely be doing some collabing. Actually, when I'll show you, hopefully we'll be doing
Okay.
collab.
Okay.
But again, we thank you so much, and we will close the way that we began by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Petros, thanks again. I really appreciate it. On behalf of SETI, we appreciate you, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Okay, you too.